Hello, everybody, and welcome to the end of the week one material. We actually have one more thing to do, but a few comments first. And the main one is that this is a weird kind of class. This week, we asked you a lot about what you think of things, and a lot of classes don't normally do that. Usually, there are things you need to learn, things that show up on the tests, um, chemistry, math, physics. They don't care what you think, really. Physics doesn't care what your opinion is about physics. And even other classes like history and literature, which can all get you thinking in very personal ways, the classes that teach those things aren't always inviting you or encouraging you to bring your own point of view to the matter. But we're going to do that a lot in this class. And so that can get confusing. It's a weird kind of thing for the students at Stanford as well. The version of the class at Stanford has the students living in the same dorm. The course runs for an entire 9 months. So these students are eating together, they're relaxing and hanging out together. And so they spend a fair amount of time talking about class material outside of the class, and in a way that interests them. They're sharing their own ideas with each other. So we can't fully replicate that for you, of course, but we want to encourage you to do what you can to break down those borders a bit between a classroom experience and the rest of your life. And there's really two levels that this happens on. One is just a personal level and in your own mind. We encourage you to continually think about how you personally are reacting to the material, what it teaches you about yourself, what your own view of the world, what kind of light that sheds on the material we're studying. But then also with your own classmates. For example, you might want to review some of the stuff you're learning in the class, like the Marcus Aurelius stuff, the definition of moral philosophy, just as you would in a chemistry class or a history class. So you can do that with each other outside of class, but you could also ask each other some of those more personal things, like asking a classmate who they think is a wise person and what kind of wisdom does that person have. Or the meditations exercise. You could ask somebody else in the class who are some of the people that showed up in their meditations, or even just what have they learned from other people that has helped make your friend, your classmate, the person that they are now. And we know this can be tricky business. It's not always easy to do because these things quickly get pretty personal. And so you don't have to do that. In the end, this is still just a class. But we encourage you to experiment with doing that. And realize along the way that it involves a lot of trust, that there are things to work out if a class is going to become like that. And we don't want to assume that it'll be easy to do. So in fact, we also encourage you to just talk about how the class is going. And this is something you can do in class. Like, what do you think as a class about the personal dimension of all of this? Is it easy? Is it hard? Would you rather not do it, which is fine? So we want to acknowledge that that's going on in this class and that it should be a topic of conversation throughout the class. Now, there's also going to be a lot of stuff we're just going to ask you to know, like any other class. And in fact, the ratio in future weeks is going to be more about knowledge, and the personal stuff may be a little bit more on the edges. But don't worry, it's a class too. We're going to ask you to participate regularly. You'll be graded on that. We're going to ask you to write a couple of essays along the way, and there'll be an exam in each of the two parts of the class. So that'll be happening too. Okay, so one last personal reflection this week. And this comes in the form of a poll question, which just has two choices. You're going to have to pick one or the other, and then a chance to ask some clarifying questions about the poll. So here's the poll scenario. You find out that someone in your own household has been stealing a lot of money from a neighbor. Now, on the one hand, you're concerned about how the theft is affecting somebody else in your community. But on the other hand, the person who's doing the stealing is somebody close to you. So the question is, how do you think about the basic conflict here? Which is more important, looking out for members of your community or looking out for a member of your own household? So in the poll, we're going to ask you to pick a side. This is very artificial, of course. There are lots of details that can make a difference one way or another. But if you had to pick one, do you lean in the direction of protecting the community, even if it's protecting them from somebody you know and love? Or does protecting your family ultimately come first, even if that family member is harming other members of the community? So the question is in the poll, if push comes to shove, which side are you likely to be on? Now, part two is a chance for you to ask some of the clarifying questions you probably want to ask in order to answer the poll in the first place. I've been very vague about the scenario, so take some time to think about what details might push you away from the side you're likely to favor. Does the amount of money in question matter? Does it matter who the neighbor is exactly and how much they're hurt by the theft? What are their circumstances? Does it matter how much money is coming into your household as a result? Are you maybe benefiting from the money? Will that make a difference? What's happening to the money after it's stolen? So think for yourself about, try to imagine what kinds of things would make a difference in this scenario. So the Stanford undergraduates who will be visiting your class on Zoom this week are going to be talking with you about your answers, both the poll vote and also your clarifying questions. So thanks in advance for doing this part of the poll question thoughtfully. And I hope you have great conversations, and we'll see you next week.